Most refugees held on Manus Island in Papua New Guinea were sent there in 2013. So this year, most will mark 5 years in what they call Australia's remote island prison. That particular word isn't used in a report by a regional protection officer for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. But after a visit to Manus, his language is just as strong. He found a pervasive and worsening sense of despair among refugees and asylum seekers, a sense of desolation.
People would be walking around, their faces would be downcast, they're looking at the ground. Not many people are going out of their rooms.
RICO SALCEDO says the need for medical care, mental health support and trauma counselling is critical and unmet. But really, the refugees shouldn't be on Manus at all. It's up to the country which sent them to Papua New Guinea to find them safe, long-term homes elsewhere.
Australia ultimately has responsibility for the welfare and for the solutions for people outside of Papua New Guinea.
Some refugees have flown to the United States under a resettlement deal Australia reached while Barack Obama was in office, but most have not, and their future is as uncertain as ever. The hardline policy to send refugees who arrived by boat to Manus Island was first introduced in July 2013 by then Prime Minister Kevin Rudd.
People who come by boat now have no prospect of being resettled in Australia. The rules have changed. If you come by boat, you will never permanently live in Australia.
Rudd lost an election shortly after that, and the Conservative government that's been in power since toughened his policies further. Earlier this week, Kevin Rudd reflected on the 10th anniversary of his national apology to Indigenous Aboriginal people mistreated for decades by various Australian governments. I interviewed him about that and then asked him whether he thought there'd ever be a need for a future Australian Prime Minister to issue another apology, this one to refugees sent by his government and subsequent ones to Manus Island or Nauru. Rudd wouldn't answer that, but did say he'd never meant refugees to be on Manus this long.
It's been inhumane in the extreme for the Conservative government of Australia to regard those who are on Manus as asylum seekers come to this country as purely domestic political pawns in a wider political game.
Despite what he said publicly in 2013, Kevin Rudd now says refugees on Manus should be found a home in Australia. Andrew Thomas, Al Jazeera, Canberra.